Hello, this is 2-1 identifying shapes. So, before we get into this, we have to realize there are two types of shapes. There are 2D, two-dimensional, and 3D, three-dimensional. Now, what does this mean? Two-dimensional means that there's only an x and y axis. In other words, it's flat. So shapes like the square are 2D, circle 2D, triangle is 2D. As for 3D, in addition to the x and y, there's also a z-axis. So you can sort of imagine it going like this as well. So it's three-dimensional. Our world is three-dimensional. So now let's actually look at a couple examples of three-dimensional shapes. For example, the cube, or the cylinder, or the sphere, or something like that. Okay, so actually now let's go into how to name and identify the following shapes. So as for two-dimensional shapes, you should be pretty familiar with the basic ones, but there's also a naming system that would be very helpful to memorize. So starting from three, tri means three. Think of tricycle, that's three wheels, or triangle, that's three angles or three sides. Quad means four. You might have heard of quadrilateral, that's four sides. Pent means five. Penta, as in pentagon, means a polygon or shape with five sides. Hex means six, or six sides. Hept means seven. Oct means eight. Non means nine. Okay. So if we see something like this, what shape is that? Well, let's count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we notice that 6, which means that it's hexagon, has six sides. So I highly encourage you to write this chart in your notes for further reference on the homework, on the test. As for 3D shapes, you'll see a couple of them, including shapes that look like this, with an n amount of sides on here. For example, if you see something like this, this is the flat side. Here is a triangle. Here's also a triangle. If there are triangles on both sides, those are called the base. That's a triangular prism. However, if you see something like this, where this side is a square or rectangle, those are called rectangular prisms. Notice that the word prism is used. Also recognize that the squares are rectangles as well. So, yeah. And notice that each side is a rectangle. We have a special name for when all six sides are the same length. Well, all six faces are squares. Now we're going to move on to pyramids. If you see a pyramid with three with faces and a triangle base. That is a triangular pyramid. However, if you see it with a square base, that is a square pyramid. Now moving on to the circle related ones. This is not a circle pyramid, this is called a cone. You can sort of remember this as an ice cream cone. Right, the cone, an ice cream cone, has a circle top and it ends in a single point. So this is not a prism because a prism would have the same face on the top and the bottom. And if it's a ball, imagine if it was a ball, perfect ball, we'd call it a sphere. And this is called a cylinder. Notice that this is prism-like, except that the sides and the one behind, these are not rectangles, so it's not a prism, but it's very similar to what a prism would be. Okay, so here are some shapes, and I want you to identify them using the notes that you have. There are 5 sides. This is the pentagon. These have square bases. And this one. So this is a rectangular prism. This is a triangular pyramid. Okay, now for some other shapes. You won't really see this often, however, some of these will be on the homework. So, for example, this, first thing you might think of is rhombus. Rhombuses apply to a lot of different shapes. For example, a square is also a rhombus. But on the homework, if you see something like this, I want you to call it a rhombus. If you see something like this is a trapezoid. A trapezoid is any shape where 2 of the sides are parallel. That. And 2 sides are not parallel. If you see something like this, I want you to call it a trapezoid. This is a kite. I didn't draw this very well. You can sort of imagine as a kite. So these 2 sides are the same length. These 2 sides are the same length. So what differentiates this between, say, a rectangle is that two adjacent sides are the same length. And here, two adjacent sides are the same length. Adjacent means next to or touching. In this case, they're next to each other. Okay, so I think that's all the shapes that you'll see in the homework. If any questions, make sure to ask. And yeah, the homework is due on Friday, and the test will also be on Friday. And yeah.